and giving. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We're very excited today. The second day of the conference for the Global Summit for Scientists in Diaspora, Science Networks in Diaspora, a very important topic, especially at the side of the UN General Assembly that's happening right now, discussing how can we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and therefore the work of scientists are extremely important to achieve that. We have with us today our keynote, Professor Max Paoli. Professor Max was born in Trieste, Italy. He studied biochemistry at York in the UK and obtained a PhD in chemistry focusing on protein structure. He worked in research projects at the Harvard Medical School and in New Zealand before becoming a David Phillips Research Fellow in Cambridge, UK, where he also began to teach. He held lectureship positions in Australia and Nottingham. Since starting to work for the World Academy of Sciences, Max has widened his interest for education and sustainable development. We're very, very proud to have you with us, Max, today, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rana. Your words made me realize that for a proportion of my life, I was myself a diaspora. So I'm very pleased to be here with you today. Let me start sharing the screen for the slides that I want to show you. As Professor Rana Dajani said, I work for the World Academy of Sciences, which is a program unit of UNESCO. This talk will touch upon the capacity building programs of the Academy to strengthen science and technology in the Global South. But I will, in touching upon these programs, I will give you some examples of diaspora involvement and the way in which this and the networks of Connected with Diaspora have contributed to these aims. So just as a background, very briefly on the Academy, as every academy, it has members. Its members are very distinguished and prestigious high-level scientists that go through a very tough selection process. The Academy and its members rely on a major overarching guiding principle, which is this one. I'll read it with you briefly. With science and technologies, countries can address challenges in agriculture, climate, health, and energy. And what I would like to underline is that although this guiding principle gives a strong or conveys a strong idea of applied sciences, actually TWAS for most of its lifetime so far has placed a lot of emphasis on the basic sciences in order to counterbalance the strong drive to applications. You cannot apply if you don't have the knowledge to apply. So I just wanted to also make that point of the strength of and the importance of the basic sciences. We like to think that the mission of the Academy is in line with the SDGs, but we try to go beyond the colorful icons, because everyone looks at the colorful icons and think, okay, fine, we contribute to reducing inequalities, or we hope we do, perhaps also we help with quality education, etc. But I think it's important to go beyond, because there are some extremely important, relevant, pertinent, and intellectually stimulating targets. I'm just showing you as an example the targets here for SDG number 4, that for us is very important indeed. And in many targets, Also, if you were to look at SDG number 12 or number 10, the number 12 is on responsible consumption, number 10 on reducing inequalities worldwide. Some of the targets should be familiarized with. So I encourage you always, when people refer to the SDGs, actually to go beyond the colorful icons. So the TWAS programs, what do? Well, they work in various areas that are listed here. And that's why we like to think that we contribute to several SDGs and their targets, as I mentioned before. I will talk a little bit more about some of these, but most importantly, I hope to be able to show you how some of these capacity building programs can contribute to improving the interactions between scientists, in strengthening their skills, in empowering women scientists, in promoting science diplomacy and policy science dialogue throughout the Global South, as well as between the Global South and the North. There are 5 major aims for these capacity building programs. They wish to strengthen the skills for research as well as the infrastructure for research. The young scientists are particularly important for TWAS, the TWAS mission, and the formation of collaborations on interdisciplinary projects is also paramount. And last but not least, we have programs to celebrate the achievements of scientists. So what are these programs? They're listed here. And this is quite a list, and I will not obviously go into details of most of them, okay? So there are research grants. This is actually the longest standing program at TWAS. There are PhD and postdoctoral fellowships. There are a whole range of exchange and mobility opportunities, and many others. Some of these are newer. For example, the science diplomacy programs some are new, some are not. This is growing a lot. This climate action, there are 2 programs under here, very new, both launched this year. And another new one is this one, seed grants for new African principal investigators. However, for the purpose of the context of today's discussions, I will focus, in order to demonstrate the amazing role the diaspora networks can play, I will focus only on some of the exchange programs, okay? So first of all, I will just let you know what kind of exchange programs there are. Now, this table represents a summary and also classifications of the exchange programs that TWAS has developed over the years. So there are 2 categories or 2 groups, let's say. There's 2 programs here at the top, which we call visiting professors. These tend to be higher level scientists. And below we have visiting researchers, which is aimed at more early career scientists. The diaspora networks play a major role in the top category, okay? But I will also give you an insight, just as examples, in a couple of these. So let me start with these 2. First of all, I would like to tell you about this one, the TWAS DFG cooperation visits. Why? Because this is an unusual program, is a south-north program, south-north. And for many years, it was the only south-north program at TWAS. In recent years, it was matched by another South-North program, which is this other one highlighted in red. So I'll tell you a few words about these. So the TWAS DFG Cooperation Visits Program started in 2010, and over this 11-year time range, there were over 300 scientists that could enjoy the cooperation visits. These are 3 months visits in German laboratories. The researchers that are eligible are from sub-Saharan African countries. And although not since the onset, but later, all fields were supported, which means that the social sciences were added because we realized that they are extremely important and there cannot be sustainable development without involving the social sciences. As you can see, if you look at the blue histograms, the number of applications has been steadily increasing, although of course in 2020 we had a drop because of COVID, but the donor responded to the increase in applications. If you look at the green histogram, by the donor responded by increasing the number of awards. So starting with a pilot with 10, they increased immediately 20, and then a 30, and then a 40, and then a 50. And I was in Germany at the beginning of July in negotiations with DFG, and we are fairly confident that they will increase this even further, even beyond 50. We will see the exact number. So this is great news. One good thing that has happened here is that there's been 100% return rate and a lot of potential for capacity building. I wanted to use this to introduce just a little seed of the role of diaspora, because amongst these over 300, there were a few, maybe just a handful, but a few that when they went to German laboratories, they were hosted by a non-German scientist. So of course, for example, I remember a gentleman from Cameroon was hosted by a Cameroonian scientist that had been working in Germany for a couple of decades. You know, whether I call him Cameroonian or German, that's a whole other story. But the point is that there was a connection made between the scientist in the sub-Saharan African country to the scientist in the German laboratory. And that connection was not just a scientific connection. It was more. There was added value. And I'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later. But I wanted to give an example of how powerful these programs can be. So here we have Patrick. Patrick from Uganda spent some time at the German National Research Center for Environmental Health in Munich. This paper arose from the results that were obtained during that 3-month visit. And what is striking is not just the collaborative paper with the German laboratory, but also the co-authors from Vietnam, Australia, and Kenya. So Patrick, through this program, not only carried out research in the German lab, not only acquired new skills, not only got good results and published the papers, but also networked and collaborated with scientists from 3 other countries. Extremely strong value. The other program that we managed in recent years to match to the TWAS DFG one is this one, funded by the ministry in Italy, and bringing together with TWAS another scientific institution located here in Trieste, as well as the National Academy of Lincei of Italy. So these 3 organizations joined forces to have this program. This program was actually focused on LDC only, and the organization wanted also to support research that was directly related to the Sustainable Development Goals. This is an example of the results of the first call that was launched in the middle of COVID, and the visits did take place despite the restrictions. I cannot even talk to you about the challenges, but you can see here some of the countries that were awarded. Once again, this one, although it's a small proportion, but also brings forward the possibility of involvement of diaspora scientists. In 2021, because of the success in 2020, we increased the host institute. So, as I mentioned before, this was the starting host institute with TWAS that proposed the program. But in 2021, we added other institutions in order to increase the portfolio and the opportunities for research projects for the visiting scientists. I will now finish off the talk with some further examples, but I will focus on first on this program highlighted in red now, which is called the TWAS Research Professors in LDCs. And here I will bring more stronger examples of the involvement of diaspora networks. This snapshot from the page of the TWAS website shows the description of the opportunity. And this program focuses on members of the academy, so they can be from any country, even the North, of course, but going to least developed countries. So a true capacity building program. I would like to bring the example of Professor Gaston. Gaston Nguerenkata is a scientist who left the Central African Republic in his mid-career stages and joined the Morgan State University in Baltimore. Nevertheless, he kept his origins close to his heart, and when he learned about the mobility program at TWAS through the network of the academy, through the membership, after becoming a TWAS member, he applied and he was awarded with a fellowship to visit the University of Bangui. And this was in mathematics because his area is mathematics. I'm very proud of this, not because I'm a mathematician. Actually, I wish my mathematics was stronger, but I'm proud of this because mathematics is really underrepresented and is such an important area of science. So we were very happy with this intervention. This intervention happened twice, as you can see here, so we were able to give renewed support, and I'll tell you now why we decided to renew the support. Not only because Professor Nguerenkata got involved in teaching lessons, so very, very full involvement, not only. And you can see from this picture, I think, the energy of some of these students, how they cluster around him and the enthusiasm that he was able to inspire in this group of students. So not only because of his teaching, but also because of his research training. So this is an email that he sent us. As a result of my nomination as research professor at the University of Bangui, I'm happy to inform you that my PhD student, Roger Enoch, has his second paper published and is now writing his dissertation. He might defend the dissertation sometimes this summer in Bangui. He will be the first PhD student in mathematics who graduated from the University of Bangui. And he's thanking us, but actually we thank him because without his input and supervision and dedication, Roger Enoch would have not been able to do and graduate with a PhD. So let me show you the paper that he attached. This was published in 2018, and you can see here Roger Enoch and Gaston and Nguerenkata being co-authors in a mathematical paper. I would like to also show you, however, this other paper that was published a year earlier, because if you remember in the email, Gaston said the second paper, so that was the second. This is the first one a year earlier. And again, you see Roger Enoch and Gaston Guarencata being co-authors. And you can see a good match here. We have University of Bangui and Morgan State University, so Central African Republic and USA joining in this co-author paper. And this is the PhD diploma for Roger Enoch that was supervised by Gaston Guarencata. And he says here that Gaston is distinguished professor at the University, Morgan State University in Baltimore, USA. But this is a certificate issued by the University of Bangui. So it was it was especially designed for this unique event. I would like to finish off with the TWAS Visiting Expert Program, in which we actually saw many representatives of the broad diaspora network participating and contributing to capacity building. The TWAS Visiting Expert Program will award pretty much any scientist from any country, any university, any organization to go and visit laboratories, departments, institutions in developing countries, although we do prioritize visits to least developed countries. So two quick examples. There are many, but I cannot go on too long. So let me quickly tell you about two examples. So here we have Dr. Tsega. He is based in Canada, although he's originally from Ethiopia. In the dates shown here, he visited Gondar College of Medicine in Ethiopia, and he was involved in developing new courses, and also with a strong emphasis on clinical practice. Another Canadian, which actually is somehow linked with the previous one, because being both in Canada, they both learned about this program. But this one is not from Ethiopia, but is originally from DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so he went to visit the Institute of Applied Techniques in Food Processing. Now, you will notice here, there are four visits. Look at all these dates, 4 visits, 2007, 2008, 9, and 10. So in 4 consecutive years, we continuously renewed the awards to allow further visits, because this capacity building contribution was extraordinary at many levels. So very valuable work and visit by Professor Dr. Mafu. So the contributions, I would say, of the last examples are pretty much in all these 5 levels. You know, these 5 levels are a summary of this talk, with the emphasis on the diaspora networks contributing, and in some cases we have contribution to 1 only, in some cases you have to 2, but in the last case 4 visits. I repeat, it was sensational, 4 visits. So transfer of skills and research training, this is the most common benefit. Often though, we can also have strengthening of the teaching and the coursework itself. Other times this can extend beyond, going into practical classes and field work. Very important. What we would also like to see is inspiration and motivation of the visiting scientists in relation to the young generations that are interacting with him or her. Last but not least, the capacity building in LDCs, and some LDCs in particular, is extremely important to reduce the gap, because especially after COVID, some of the least developed countries are in probably a worse state than ever before, with people that didn't attend classes or have a disruption in their education. So we continue to place emphasis on the least developed countries. I thank you so much for listening, and if you wish to have more information, do not hesitate to visit the TWAS website under opportunities. In case some representative of diaspora networks have been listening, we are extremely keen on sharing and using your competencies and expertise. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for that very important and relevant sharing of information. This is amazing. I know we started a little bit late and we're probably gone over time, but I cannot resist but ask a question.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. These things happen with us all. I just can't resist to ask a question. How do you keep, I mean, all these opportunities are great examples of harnessing the potential of diaspora in all the creative ways that you have outlined. So thank you very much. This is very valuable. My question is, how do you track what's happening? Because what you're doing is you're just seeding, right? Seeding these opportunities of connection and believing that they will bear fruit in the future, which is a very important lesson, that we need to be patient and plan long term. But since TWAS has been around and some of these programs have been around for a few years, maybe more than now 2 decades, how do you track, like, to see really what happened with all those people that participated?
Dear Professor Rana, this question is touching some sore points for sure, because let me briefly explain. The research grants program at TWAS, I mentioned, is the longest standing program and is funded by a huge donor of TWAS, SIDA. And in 2016, SIDA carried out an evaluation, and the result of the evaluation was positive, thankfully. That's why they renewed, but there was one major criticism. We were not doing what you just said now, tracking. We were not doing monitoring and evaluation. We're not documenting the impact. We're not following. But it's because we didn't have, one, the resources, and two, the knowledge, because monitoring and evaluation is a particular type of process and exercise in its own right. Yeah. So we took on board the criticism, and after 2017, we did start both training and also working, collecting data for monitoring and evaluation and documentation of impact. Although in the first 2 years, that was mainly focused on the research grants program to obviously respond to the evaluators' criticism and satisfy the donor, keep the donor happy. In the last couple of years, we managed to expand a little bit of those expertise onto other programs. And you saw with the slides on Professor Gaston and Guerencata that you saw a little bit of tracking, a little bit of documentation of impact. But to be honest, that was done for this talk especially. So that wasn't done before. I'm making a confession here. I'm actually, being transparent, but I take on board what you said, and we are aware of it. But I repeat, the problem is partially also lack of resources, because we've got a very small team. But yeah, you're right, and we should keep a better track. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And the only reason I asked is because when we have good traction, then people can copy your model, participate more, and so on. Although it's there, we know it's there, we know it's happening, and the benefits will show in years ahead. But just to showcase the wonderful work that you're doing. So one suggestion is, if this can be brought to the attention of social sciences to put their PhD students on to help you doing it, and that would not be costly because it's their own PhD program, and it'd be a win-win. They would find material to do their PhD, something new, something nobody has done before, and you would get somebody to do all that tracking for you, and follow up. So that's an idea of interdisciplinary, creatively highlighting what you're doing. But what you're doing is amazing. And we will, I'm sure many of the diaspora networks that are attending will learn from you. and utilize and advertise your program. So thank you very, very much for all the good work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for your suggestion of what you said a minute ago. We bear it in mind, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care and have a great day.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.